Okay, so the second part of this is to create a model to calculate the costs of broadcasting the radio programs. If we look at our spreadsheet at the moment, it's only partially completed. There are numbers that we need to include, and we get this from here. So let's go through and see what we can add. So first of all, 1 day's training for students to become radio presenters is needed. The training is done by a professional company at a cost of £150 for each student. So cost of training per student is £150. The school has initially planned for up to 3 students to be trained each year. That's 3. Cost of training for a broadcast week. This will need to be done for with a calculation. Yearly cost of equipment. Whoops. £320 per year. Okay. Mr. Stevens expects to receive donations of at least £8 for each advert. First programme is planned to be 3 adverts. Okay, so there's other areas here that need to be filled in later. There is something up here that says Mr. Stevens expects there will be between 25 and 30 weeks when radio programmes are broadcast during the year. She refers to these as broadcast weeks. For every broadcast week there will be 5 programmes, 1 for each school day. So I need to include something in my spreadsheet to make reference to that. So just here I'm going to right click and insert one above, insert another one above, and insert another one above, and just there I'm going to say number of broadcast weeks, and I'm going to set it at 25 at the moment. That's obviously going to be could be changed possibly. The other thing it said earlier on is number of programs for a broadcast week, and that was 5. Yeah, 5 programs for each week. So that's the rest of the data entered that we have. So to make our calculations for this first scenario, we need to think about, first of all, the cost of training for a broadcast week. So I'd like you to have a think about how you can work out the cost of training for a broadcast week before I help you to fill in the blank. I'm going to just pause this while you have a go. Okay, so hopefully you've worked out that what we need to do, as we always do, is type in equals for a formula, and we take the cost, yearly cost of all training, and divide that by the number of broadcast weeks. Hit enter, and that should give us, at the moment, a figure of 6. We've got a very similar scenario here where we've got the yearly cost of equipment. So we would do equals yearly cost of equipment divided by number of broadcast weeks. It should be 12.8. Oops. However, I've just noticed an error with this. So it says yearly cost of equipment, and it does say here higher of the cost for equipment is £320 for every month of a year. So I need to do equals 320 multiplied by 12, which gives us 3840. To work out the cost of a license for a broadcast week, you would need to, again, equals annual music divided by number of broadcast weeks. It should give you £10.80. To work out the number of weekly adverts, we need to multiply the number of programs for a broadcast week by, so it's asterisk, the number of adverts for a program, which gives us 15. Next thing we need to do is work out the total raised. So see if you can have a little go of that particular task. Okay, so to work out the total raised, we need to multiply donation for each advert by the number of weekly adverts, which will give us 120. Okay, so further up here we need to work out the total weekly cost. See if you can have a go at that. Okay, so to work out this, what we need to do is look at the cost of training for a broadcast week, add that to the cost of equipment, and add that to the cost of license for a broadcast week. Hit enter, and that gives you your total cost. Oops, daisy. Okay, so one error I have discovered is that I need to account for a yearly cost of all training, which needs to be another calculation. So that is equals B6 multiplied by the number of students, which gives us 18. And that's obviously changed the total weekly cost in there also. And what we also need to do is work out the total, the profit on loss for a broadcast week, which is relatively simple really. So that's equals the total raised minus the weekly cost. Which at present is giving us a loss. So what we need to do is provide evidence for that in here. So the first part is calculating costs, screenshot 1. Screenshot here of your spreadsheet with the cost calculated. Make brief comments about this scenario. So what I could do is make a screenshot of that and delete this, delete that, paste that in there, and again crop that down so it just includes the main area. Scale it down, and again we can make some brief comment about what we've done. Data completed from instructions in the candidate booklet. Costs calculated for a 25 weeks broadcast week. To complete that, we need to go on to the next slide, which asks us to put the screenshot of your spreadsheet in formula view. So this is showing how we've calculated and to do that you go to view and all formula, and that shows how you've calculated things. Again, make another screenshot and put that into there, crop and scale down. You could then make some annotation to say that this is the formula view for scenario. You also need to go back to the earlier stage, insert another text box to say what's happened. So you need to say that a loss has been made for the lowest broadcast weeks. insert an arrow pointing to the profit and loss area. Okay, so I need to go back to what I've been asked to do here. So create a model to calculate the cost of broadcasting the radio programs, which is what I've done. Mr. Stevens will need to know the weekly profit or loss arising from the cost, which is what we've done. We've done that bit. We haven't improved the presentation yet. We'll come to that in a second. And it's saying use your model for each of the scenarios on this page. Make brief comments about each one you have produced. And Mrs. Stevens wants you to explore the profit or loss when using the lowest and highest number of broadcast weeks. So this is something else we need to do as part of our first scenario, is show the lowest and highest number of broadcast weeks. At the moment we've showed 25 weeks, which is the lowest. If you remember earlier on, it said 25 to 30 weeks, between 25 and 30 weeks. So we're going to need to show evidence that we've done the one for the 30 weeks also. So what I'm going to do is just duplicate this slide. Take out this piece of evidence. Go back to my model spreadsheet. Change my view back to all formulae, which shows the normal view. Change the number of weeks to 30, and then we can show what's happened with number of weeks at 30. You can see that everything's been recalculated. So we'll get another screenshot of that, paste it into there, crop it, and put that in there. Change this to say 30 weeks. And say a loss has been made for the highest broadcast weeks. A loss has also been made for the highest weeks. And so that covers everything for scenario 1.